Now, why is this not starting? There we go. Okay, good. Now I'll go to green. Next one, f of n is negative 3n plus 2 for n greater than or equal to 1. So this is, notice, this time it's an explicit formula, and it wants you to write the sequence and then the recursive formula. So if I plug in a 1, what do I get? What's negative 3 times 1? Hey, come on, negative 3 times 1. Negative 3 plus 2? Negative 1. Now let's do the next one. Let's plug in a 2. What's negative 3 times 2? Negative 6 plus 2? Negative 4. Plug in a 3. Negative 3 times 3? Negative 9 plus 2? Negative 7. Let's do one more. Plug in a 4. Negative 3 times 4? Plus 2? Negative 10. So now if I write this in a recursive formula, first let's write a sub 1. It's negative 1. And then a sub n is the previous term, a sub n minus 1. And then what am I doing to go from term to term to term to term? Minusing 3. We're subtracting 3. Okay? So this is my answer, both parts put together. A sub 1 is negative 1, and then I'm going to go down by 3. The new term is the previous term minus 3.
Wouldn't 2 be the first term?
No.
I don't get it.
No. This is saying the rule. I'm going to plug in numbers starting with 1, and the outputs make the sequence. So the outputs would be negative 1, negative 4, negative 7.
Oh, 2 is the 0th term. The one that we don't graph, right?
Oh, yes. If you wanted to plug in a 0, you would have come up with 2, exactly. And that would be it. So the y-intercept would be 2 if you wanted to look at it that way. Okay? So, what's that? All you want to do is you want to generate the sequence. A sub 1 is always the first term in the sequence. And then you want to write new term is, old term, and what's happening to it. Here you're subtracting 3. Here you're multiplying by 100. Here you're adding 1. So that's all you need to do in each of those cases. Okay, any questions? Okay, so now we need to talk about interest. This is an unfortunate thing, but it's unfortunate in a lot of ways, maybe not always. But interest makes the world go round. Can you guys scooch back just a little bit? Sorry. Economically, what I mean is that interest makes the world go round. Interest drives economies. Whenever you hear them talk about the Fed, they'll talk about the prime interest rate. When the Federal Reserve is when they talk about the Fed. There's several different ways to look at interest. There's interest like, there's two types, simple interest and compound interest. If you borrow money from your parents, they usually don't charge you interest. I've lent plenty of money to Jimmy, plenty of money to Bobby, and you lend them the money and you just expect to get back what it was you gave them. So if they said, for argument's sake, if they were 16 years old and they said, Dad, I really want to take out this girl, I'm in love with this girl, please let me take her out, I need $40 to go out to the movies and then to friendlies afterwards. Okay, here's $40, when are you giving it back to me? I don't expect to get $45 back, I expect $40. If you go to the mafia, if my son goes to the mafia and he says, my dad's a big jerk, he won't lend me any money, I need $40 to take this girl out. They'd say, okay, I'm gonna lend you the $40. And on Friday, you're gonna give me back 80. Oh yeah, it's called loan sharking.
Your Italian smoker voice is on point.
There you go.
Why would Jimmy?
No, they wouldn't. But my point is, that's extreme interest. So when you borrow money from family, there's usually no interest. You borrow money from the mafia, it's extreme interest.
Don't borrow money from the mafia.
No, do not borrow money from the mafia. It is called loan sharking, and if they get caught doing it, they go to jail. Now, what about banks? Now, there are two types of interest a bank could use. A bank could use simple interest, a bank could use compound interest. Now, you should understand something. How many banking commercials do you see on TV? All the time. Banking is big business. So this stuff about interest is buku bucks. Huge money involved with interest. Because the way banking works as a whole is this. You trust that the bank will not go under, that the bank will continue to operate. You take a certain amount of money, you need it kept safely, you put it in the bank. It doesn't sit in a piggy bank. The money is used by the bank. So you might, let's pretend I'm the bank, the Bank of Lindquist. Nolan says, I got an extra $10,000. I'm gonna put it in the Bank of Lindquist so I don't lose it. Because if a thief broke into your house, they could take the 10 grand and you're out.
That's why I hide it in my backyard.
You could do that too. But then if someone stumbled upon it, you're out. So Nolan gives the Bank of Lindquist $10,000. Lo and behold, Opal comes up to me and says, you gotta see this guitar. I found the greatest guitar in the history of the world, but I need to borrow money for the guitar. It's gonna cost me $5,000. So I said, no problem. And Jade comes up to me and goes, I gotta go to Hawaii. I really gotta go to Hawaii. It's gonna cost me $5,000.
Wait, why is a guitar in Hawaii the same much?
Because it's a really good guitar. So I said, okay.
It's that good.
The bank will say, Opal, I'll lend you the $5,000. You're gonna pay me back $6,000. And they'll say, I'll lend you the $5,000. You're gonna pay me back $6,000. So the money, the bank never earned the money. Nolan put in $10,000, and the bank makes $2,000 without ever having worked. They took his money, they lent it out, and they made interest on it. Now, in order to put your money in the bank, they give you a little bit of interest. They might give you $200, but they make $1,800 on the deal.
It's good. That's good enough for me.
This is how banks work. Okay, they take all your money, they lend it to somebody else, they make money from the other person. If you ask for the money, they can give it back to you, and at the same time, they've just made a whole lot of money without creating anything, without building anything, without having a factory, without doing anything. They've made money, and lots of it, enough to buy commercials on TV all day long.
What if the person doesn't give them back the money and I go
Well,
to
then
get
it would be a default situation, and they make your life miserable. They will not let you get a loan for 7 years. And if you had a house, you'd be kicked out of your house.
So let's say Constance borrowed money from you,
Mhm.
and she can't pay you back that $6,000, and I come to get my money.
Well, but here's the thing that works with banks. It's kind of like insurance. How many people go to TD Bank?
I don't know.
Tons. Look in the parking lot. Aren't there always cars in the parking lot 24/7?
Sure.
Yes.
Now, how many TD banks are all over the United States?
A lot.
Now, TD Bank is a Canadian bank. So there's even more, well, I don't know if there's more in Canada because Canada's not as big as America, but it's more popular in Canada. So now, there's TD banks from Florida to Quebec, from California to New York. That's many, many thousands of TD banks. Do you think every person's going to go in at the same time and say, give me my money?
No.
No. So if a couple of people go in, they got it. They just don't have the 10,000 you gave in a little drawer that says Nolan's 10,000. If you say, I need my 10,000, he might say, oh, we'll take it from these drawers, give it back to you, and then when we get our interest, we'll put that money back in the drawers.
Why don't you just
So it works, believe me, they make a ton of money.
That's
That's
very
Why
confusing.
don't you just keep it?
because then they can't invest it, and then they don't make money.
No, like the person.
Oh, you could. You absolutely could. But then, like for instance, I can tell you my mother has one bank account where when my grandfather died, he gave her a lot of money. And she earned $900 in interest this year, doing nothing. Just leaving the money alone. Sitting in the bank, she made $900. And I'm gonna show you why you'll invest in it in just a couple of minutes, because I will show you how you are guaranteed to be rich.
It kind of sounds
Rich.
skeezy.
Guaranteed to be rich, okay?
It just kind of
Is this
sounds
what you do?
skeezy that they use your money.
Oh, it is skeezy. That's the banking system, okay? So now, simple interest says,
Investing in gold.
here's the simple interest formula. Interest is principal times rate times time. Principal is the starting amount of money you put in. R is the interest rate, but you always have to express it as a decimal. Very important. And T is the number of years. This is your compound interest formula. I put it there. You don't have to go too nuts. We almost never use the ends. Because we compound annually. We don't really talk about doing it compounded quarterly or compounded continuously or anything like that. So for our purposes, we don't really use the ends, but I put them there just in case we ever need them. I don't expect to. Now let's go through some really simple examples of simple interest, and then some simple examples of compound interest, and then I will show you how this has made me, I wouldn't call myself rich, but comfortable, because I use the miracle of compound interest to my advantage. Kira's been babysitting since 6th grade. She saves $1,000 and she wants to open an account in the bank so that she will earn interest on her savings. Simple Bank pays a simple interest of 10%, which is really high. Nowadays it's under 1%, but still pay 10%. How much money will she have in a year, 2 years, and so on? Now, here's the formula. I equals PERT. P-R-T. Principal times the rate of interest as a decimal times the time. So, let's do 1 year. What's the principal? What's the amount of money we start with? $1,000. Good. Then I'm going to multiply that by the interest rate. What is the interest rate?
10%.
10%. What is that as a decimal?
0.1.
0.10. Good. And I'm going to leave it in for 1 year. Don't figure it out yet. We'll figure it out in a minute. Now, we're going to do the same problem, but we're going to leave it in for 2 years. What would those numbers be? 1,000 times 0.10 times 2. Now I think we leave it in for 5 years, right? So what do we got? 1,000 times 5. Good. Okay, figure out those answers.
Calculator.
Yep, absolutely. It's actually easy enough to do in your head, but you can use the calculator.
Wow, way to make me feel bad.
Oh, when you see the answer, you'll know.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty easy.
All right.
You just move one over.
He just felt like he needed to.
Wait, so you're saying I take as much money as I have, which I'm not telling anyone.
No one
I'll
cares.
put it. I'll get my mom and dad to make me a bank account. Put it in the bank. Now, when I'm 20, I can go back and I'll have.
Oh, wait. We're going to do a problem just like that in a minute. Oh, a lot more.
You have 3 bank accounts.
Okay. Ready?
I'm sorry.
What's the first one work out to?
100.
Next one?
200.
And next one? 500. Now, you got to be careful here because this is not the amount of money in the account. If you had $1,000 in the account to start with, how much is in the account now? 1,100. This one?
1,200.
1,200. And the last one?
1,500.
1,500. So that's the way simple interest works. And sometimes in life, banks do simple interest things. I remember when I bought my first apartment or house, I think it was my apartment, but it might have been, no, it was an apartment. I wanted to buy furniture. I needed a couch, like a rocker recliner kind of thing, little dining room table, and I priced it all out. It added up to $2,000. So I went to a bank and I borrowed $2,000, and they charged me simple interest, and I paid back the money in time, whatever, over 2 years, and I had no problems with that. That was simple interest. It was a very small payment, and so on. Have you ever heard your parents talk about the mortgage?
Yeah.
Okay. The mortgage is not simple interest. Have you ever heard them talk about credit cards?
Yeah.
Credit cards are not simple interest. Mortgages, credit cards, car loans, these things are compound interest. Now, compound interest is a very, very different deal. This is simple interest. I want to skip this question. I want to go to this one here. I'm going to show you how to use compound interest now, and then in a few minutes we should have enough time for me to show you how to be rich. Here's your compound interest formula. The amount of money in the account at any point in time, that's what A stands for, the amount. The amount of money in the account at any point in time is the principal, the amount of money we start with, times 1 plus the percent of as a decimal to a certain power. That being T for time, okay? So, let's do 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Amount, 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 amount. What's the principal in every case?
Where you start out.
Yeah, and how much is it? 500. So in each case, I'm going to put 500 as the amount that I started with. Now, what's the rate of interest in this problem? 6%. What is 6% as a decimal? 0.06. So, this in the decimal here, ready? It's going to be 1 plus 0.06. What does that add up to? 1.06. Good. So in every case, it's going to be 1.06. Now, the first problem is 1 year, the second problem is 2 years, the third problem is 5 years, and the last problem is 10 years. So we just change the exponent. 1, 2, 5, 10. Make sense? Now you need to do some calculations. Listen very carefully. You should use the caret or up arrow button to calculate for the exponents changing. And round every answer you get to the nearest penny. The first one will come out evenly. After that, they'll all have pennies.
penny. I like money. Money is my friend.
Money is a tool used to accomplish the things you value in life, the things you're going to accomplish. It can be a great thing or it can be a mean, evil, horrible thing.
Let's go with great thing.
Then use it wisely.
Whoa, that's a good one.
Okay, so first one's 530. What's the second one? 561 point. And the next one? 6 what? Point. And the last one?
895.42.
Okay. Do you notice how it's getting, here it goes up 30, here it goes up 100 plus, here it goes up
42.
42, okay. Here it goes up almost over 100, 180 it goes up. And this one, God, you're going up over 200. So you can see that there's an exponential progression. Remember, exponential works like this. Now, hold it real quick. Here's how to get rich. I explained this in the first period class. Let's just say between age 20 and 30, you get $50,000 that you put away. Just put it away. You make the money, you put it away. It's very possible. You can very much do this if you're wise with your money. So we're going to take $50,000. Now, I have a personal account with over $180,000 in it. And that account is through investment, and it has averaged 14% a year for over 80 years. So if it's 14% interest, this becomes 1.14. Okay? Now, put the money in the account when you're 30 years old. Don't touch it till you're 65 years old. If you put it in when you're 30 and you take it out when you're 65, how many years has it been in the bank? 35 years. Take your calculator. What was the original $50,000? What is it worth 35 years later? Go ahead, figure it out. Hold it, don't move it until you get this answer.
490,000.
Nope.
Over 4.
Nope. 4,900,000. It's worth almost $5 million.
What would you spend that on when you're 65?
What is the interest rate?
I mean, like, what do you take?
Mine has averaged
No, you gotta invest
14%
in
for
math
80
and
years.
science.
I mean, like, you would take at least some money.
I would do it like when I'm 20, so that I would
Nope, you
have.
leave it. Because you get used to living, and the thing is, you don't have to ever put another dime in again as long as you live. So for the rest of your life, you can keep your whole paycheck and do whatever you want with your paycheck. Just those first 10 years, so it's like getting a
Wait, so
raise.
if you put that in your savings, you still get interest.
Yeah, but savings, they give you like a 1% interest, 2% interest, very low.
You don't use
But-
it as much.
Well, it's more of a safety thing. This is actually a mutual fund, but it has averaged 14% a year for 80 or 85 years. It's called the American Fund. It's very, very, very good.